Welcome to Unfiltered Counsel. Today's guest has spent more than 2 decades operating at the heart of some of the UK's most important financial institutions, from Lloyd's to Euroclear and now Allianz UK. Chris Twemlow has advised through regulatory change, market disruption, boardroom challenges and business transformation. He was named in the Legal 500 GC Power List. Chris is known not only for his legal expertise, but for his thoughtful leadership, his commitment to inclusion and ability to influence at the highest levels of business. So, Chris, welcome and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for the invitation. Very good to be here.
So, Chris, when people hear General Counsel of Allianz UK, what do they think you do all day?
Yeah, I think it depends on the person and their perspective. I think people by default might think it's contracts and kind of legal process. But that really isn't the role at all for a general counsel of an organisation of the sort of size and complexity of Allianz UK. The role becomes a very different one with a few different facets. I think it's the team, and the team absolutely are there to support the business, deliver against the business objectives, and that involves contracts, it involves regulatory advice, it involves the full spread of supporting the business and safeguarding, what the organisation is doing and making sure we're doing it in the right way. The different component from a general counsel point of view is that senior business engagement, stakeholder management, guidance, direction across all aspects of what the business is trying to do.
So they're not 100% right about their understanding of what you actually do. It's quite clear.
Yeah, and I think if you say insurance company, people automatically think of obviously insurance policies. They'll think of, what our policyholders, in particular our retail policyholders, will see and experience of an insurance company. And obviously customers at the heart of what we do, ensuring the right outcomes for our customers is core to Allianz's values and what we deliver. That's enormously important. Actually, it's a relatively small part of my job, thinking about the policy and claims side of things. That's core to the business, but is also BAU from a business point of view. We've got, well-trodden processes and ground that ensure we're doing the right things for our customers at the policy level, at the sales and marketing and interaction, and obviously in particular customers interacting with us when they have a claim. It's a relatively small part of what my team do. It's certainly a sort of small part of what the general counsel is there to do. So I think insurance company, lawyer, they'll think of something which is important to us, but not a core part of the GC role.
So what do you actually do as the GC?
That's a very good question. I think it depends what day you ask me the question, or what hour of the day you might ask me the
makes it quite exciting.
The question, yeah, exactly. It's just a huge range. Allianz UK, we are general insurance, so we sell insurance at a retail level. So that's home cover, it's car cover, it's pet cover under our Pet Plan brand, retail under our LV brand. We're a big commercial insurer, so already that's thinking about, right from a sole trader or an SME up to quite large corporate entities. And the day-to-day of running an organisation of that kind of size and complexity that delivers that has a real range of activity that my team and I will be involved in. And clearly, we're very closely regulated. So actually, at heart, I would say I'm a regulatory lawyer. So thinking about financial services regulatory compliance is really the heart of what my team sort of delivers for the business and what I think about. But alongside that can be, our sponsorship of the Allianz Stadium in Twickenham.
So you go out and have a look at that.
So I'm involved in the negotiation when we set up the deal and learn far more about stadium toilets and seating and advertising banners, etc., than I did before.
So it's not just sitting in an office all day reading contracts and going, this insurance policy works, this one doesn't. So it's actually getting ingrained in the business.
I think the absolute core of my job as General Counsel is stakeholder management, stakeholder engagement. So my relationships with everyone across the business, from the chair of our board and our independent directors, chief exec, and the other executives sitting around the exco table, so the senior managers who are really deciding and directing our business, right down, right through the organisation that I will interact with. And I think that's a core part of what I try to do as General Counsel. It's certainly a core part of what we strive as, from my team perspective, is that client engagement and interaction.
So what percentage of your day job actually is the law? Because you say you're a regulatory lawyer, but you've just told me that it's a far more interesting commercial role, and the perspective is you're not actually sitting there reviewing contracts all day. The GC role is bigger than just reviewing documentation for the business. It sounds like you are actually part of the business, getting involved in understanding what the key issues are and making sure you can mitigate the risk for the business to protect them. So if I was to actually follow you around for a week, every day at work, what would I actually see? It would be different every day?
It would be different every day. I think one of the key things you said in there was risk mitigation, and fundamentally that's what the General Counsel and the legal team is there to do, is to manage legal risk. But in the context of a business like ours, that's about making sure we do business in the right way. So that's understanding the business. I've got an outstanding team of lawyers. I'm also the company secretary. I've got an outstanding team of governance and company secretarial professionals. They know the business very well. They have very good relationships across the business. We understand what the business is trying to deliver, and we are there to help them deliver that, whilst protecting them, stopping them doing stupid things, keeping them out of jail, however you want to kind of express it. But fundamentally, it's about delivering what the business is looking to deliver. So, I think across the day, I'm quite a doom monger in some respects, in that I spend quite a lot of my time thinking about what might go wrong. And what poor outcomes there might be, in order to anticipate how we can avoid them, and how I can get the business to think about, okay, there might be a risk here that we want to avoid. Can we do it in a slightly different way? Have we thought about this? What do we need to do to manage the legal risk? So a lot of time spent thinking about, okay, what might go wrong here? What are the risks here that we need to manage and mitigate? And then working with the business.
So I think this is music to the regulators' ears. It's exactly what they would love to hear from the role of the General Counsel, and you're doing it exactly right. So, Chris, you've just shared with us, some of the goings-on of how your business operates. So it brings me to the question of, when did you first realise that you were not being paid to be the best lawyer in the room anymore? Because you're not sitting there just giving legal advice, you're doing everything.
Yeah, and I'm a bit of a geeky lawyer. I love the law. I love. I started as a litigator, but really now, as I said, a financial services regulatory lawyer, which I really love. And then, indeed, as you say, it's crept upon me that I don't do much law now, in a lot of respects. Certainly not at the sort of technical level that I might have done, but it's a fundamental underpinning of what a General Counsel and what my senior lawyers need to have at the back of their mind. They need to have this kind of instinctive feel for what they need to worry about and what they need to think about from a legal point of view. I think the number of issues that my team and I get, we'll get a business situation and we need to think about all the things that we need to think about. So it's almost instinctively, okay, that's an issue we need to think about more. There might be an intellectual property ownership issue, for example, or perhaps there's a competition law issue that we need to think about. So a key part of the role is is understanding what you might need to think about, and then you can go away and make sure you've thought about it correctly. Go away and look up the law, or talk to external counsel if it's something super specialised. Or I'll have somebody in my team who can think about it in more detail. But it's anticipating what issues might arise and helping the business understand those. I think in terms of when did I realise I wasn't a lawyer anymore and I was managing stakeholders?
It just
slightly
happens to you.
It just happens. It's slightly unfair to say I manage egos for the senior people that I interact with, who hopefully aren't listening to this, and we've been reading about them. Managing stakeholders, indeed, it happens. And that's as you become a more senior lawyer, particularly in an in-house situation, that's really what does happen. You end up having to think more about stakeholder management, while still having that fundamental underpinning of being, excellent, outstanding lawyers.
So when you first took on the GC role, that didn't cross your mind your first time, because you think you're going in there to look after the business, protect the organisation from risk, and then suddenly you have this new role as co-sec and general counsel advising the board, and suddenly you have another group of people that you need to manage on top of the exco. So, and that takes a lot of time to adjust and think about the ways in which you can manage those different relationships. So can you give us any advice about anything you've learned about undertaking that process? If you were stepping up for the first time to a new GC role and you had to go to a board meeting, it's quite scary.
Yeah, and it's not something that really formally you learn as part of your training as a lawyer. To be put in exactly those types of situations. And I think a lot of lawyers listening will recognise when they've been thrust into a situation for the first time, possibly, or whether going into a meeting and there's a number of people around the table and people turn to face them and expect you to know what you're talking about and give some direction, and indeed start managing the people in the room if they're kind of going off track. So I think we probably all as lawyers recognise when those first types of interactions happen. It's something you just have to develop, don't you?
Yes.
And it's so interesting that with all our formal training and the extent of our legal training, actually stakeholder management is sort of not there. Certainly when in my day, it wasn't something which was front and centre of your formal training. I think you really have to fake it a little bit before you make it. You've got to. There's a huge amount where people will turn to the lawyer, will turn to the senior lawyer, will certainly turn to the GC, and expect that they will be relatively cool, calm, collected, thoughtful. Will understand the complexities of the situation and be able to give some advice and indeed interact with some senior people and have them listen to you. I think you have to understand that going into these situations, that is the role of general counsel, is the role of a senior lawyer. You may not be entirely confident inside, and you may not know all the facts. That will absolutely be the case, and you may not know exactly the legal answer, but having the confidence to have a view and express that view whilst being grounded in the law and common sense kind of problem solving is what you need to go into those situations for. I think it was a good crisis is very good testing ground.
We love a good crisis.
Learning ground, yeah. I think lawyers can do very well being kind of a wartime conciliary. Teaches you a lot of skills and lessons very quickly, and I think shows the absolute value of a general counsel and what they can bring to an organisation. I go right back to the dim and distant past when the financial crisis and Lehman Brothers, and I was a very junior lawyer at Euroclear at the time, and there was a lot of work involved in the Lehman Brothers collapse. as well as some of the other things that were happening during the financial crisis, which is bank nationalisations with Northern Rock and various other banks, Icelandic banks, for example, getting into trouble. And you very quickly, in those crisis situations, I think, show the strength and value of the General Counsel. You're in a situation which is unusual, and you don't know all the facts. You don't know necessarily all the right answers. But I think that's when a General Counsel can, or a senior lawyer in that kind of situation, really can bring their value to the table for the organisation. The other people around the table, and I've now dealt with a large number of incidents and issues over my career. I think the General Counsel is in a unique position, a really super interesting position, where we are to some degree neutral in that we don't own the IT or the operational arrangements or the customer facing responsibilities. We're not the P&L owner. We're not the chief exec who's got to kind of worry about the board or shareholders. And we can see all of those issues, and we can see where those individual people will be thinking rightly about their individual domain. I think the GC can step back and try and look at the entire issue and try and bring a bit of common sense and corral together all those experts sitting around the table who may not necessarily think about the broader picture. And that's certainly what I've learned and developed in my career, that a crisis, obviously unfortunate circumstances, is very good training ground for a lawyer.
I think every lawyer should go through a crisis.
Yeah.
Because I completely agree with you. The amount you learn from having to make decisions in highly time-pressured scenarios with limited facts, limited information. You've got the regulator breathing down your neck, and the board and the exco looking at the lawyer and saying, what do we do? Tell us what we do. And this is your actual moment to shine. And so, and what the point you made earlier, Chris, is absolutely critical. When you join a board as the General Counsel, they want to have someone who's going to remain measured, calm, collective, thoughtful, and not make rash decisions and remain independent. So everything you described is absolutely right. And that's how you build trust with your board members and your exco as someone who is dependable, thoughtful, reliable, and will take their time to give an answer. So if just for the benefit of our younger generation, if they were stepping into that role for the first time as General Counsel and a crisis happened and the board turned and said, oh, look at this geopolitical risk, please tell us, General Counsel, what do we do? It's the first time and you're new in role. So what is the best way that you think that they could respond, to reassure and make sure that that you have enough time and you don't look bad?
Yeah. I think I have a sort of fairly clear checklist in my head in those types of situations, in terms of what you should think about and how you should, talk with management or the board. And it's what information do you know? What information don't you know? So it's sort of think about what you know and what you don't know, and just try and do that in a relatively calm manner. So identify the facts, identify what you don't know, but which you might be able to find out. Think about, have you got the right people in the room? Is super important. Certainly, obviously, in a crisis situation or an exec situation, then it's a bit easier. In the board, hopefully you're a bit more prepared. But in the crisis situation or in an executive meeting, have you got the right people in the room who need to be there? Have you got the right subject matter experts who are going to bring the right information to the conversation to enable a decision or action to be taken? I think the flip side of that is, have you got the wrong people in the room? And that's where GC just needs to be a bit brave and say, actually, we don't need you and you. And a few key interventions that I've staged kind of over the years is indeed making sure we've got the right people. You get lots of hangers on, you get lots of people who are interested in what's going on, Do they need to be there? So have you got the right people in the room? Have you got rid of the people who do not need to be there for the time being?
And also, it's about managing the confidentiality of the situation.
Yeah, exactly. So you get lots of people interested. You need to think about the information containment. I then think it's what decisions do you need to make right now? You get a lot of people shouting, a lot of people saying, "What about this? What about this? What about this?" I think just a bit of prioritization. What do you actually need to decide right now? And actually, usually, it's a relatively small number of things which tend to be more manageable. Yes, there'll be some bigger problematic issues which you're absolutely worried about, but that can probably wait till the afternoon or the next day. So really focus on what do we really need to decide now that we need to focus our energies on. And I think if you just try and put a bit of structure around the situation, go back to basics, it just really helps you kind of understand what you need to bring to the table, and it will give that kind of feeling of a bit of calm and control, which is often needed because these types of situations, be a cyber incident or an IT issue or an external kind of macro crisis that's causing an intervention. Really, it's about what do you know and what do you need to do, and try and put to one side all of the extraneous noise.
That brings me to my next question is, tell me about the best external external counsel you've ever worked with, and what made them stand out, or, what's so exceptional about the way they deliver their service to you?
Gosh, I've worked with a huge number of outstanding external counsel. As an in-house lawyer, as a general counsel in an organisation, they're clearly a key element of our arsenal that we have to draw upon and balance their use of. I think I'll probably go back to some crises, and again, it's sort of what we were just talking about. That I may have had some really difficult questions to deal with, and you sort of know the answer, but a lot rides on it, and so you need to do some sense check. So I think some of the best external counsel I've worked with understand what a general counsel needs, which is different from what a lawyer in a law firm kind of generally needs and the way they think. I need, particularly if I'm turning to external counsel for something in my role as GC, it tends not to be technical points of law that I want to have a conversation about. It will be some big decisions, some big points of kind of policy or principle. So the best external lawyers will understand that I'm a lawyer in a commercial organization, a financial services firm, a highly regulated firm with lots of customers, one that obviously needs to make money for our shareholder, and those competing considerations that I bring to the table at Exco or in conversations with the business, they need to understand, and not just give me a technical kind of, here is a risk note, here's a legal risk note. I want help and guidance from them.
Excellent, thank you. So, Chris, can I take a different tact? I'd like to ask you, when you look back at your younger self entering into the legal profession for the first time, how different is the experience for LGBTQ plus lawyers today, and what still needs to change?
I mean, it's changed such a huge amount in my lifetime. If I look back to when I was growing up, we had Section 28. Obviously, really explicit gross homophobia, and was all over the press and elsewhere. Growing up, and even when I was at university or starting my career, the prospect of me being able to marry my partner and live openly was not something that I thought I would see in my lifetime, I think. And it as other LGBT lawyers will know, it's a burden, that you carry on top of an already complex career, to think about how you navigate some of these situations. I wasn't out when I started my work, and as a junior lawyer, I was actively worried about what that would do to my career. And so it's just an additional burden that you carry in your head, and you've got to think about in all situations. You navigate when someone asks you about your home life or partners or whatever it might be. Now, obviously things have changed hugely over my lifetime, and it's fantastic the progress that we've made, the steps towards equality, the recognition by law firms and commercial organisations of the massive value which a diverse workforce who are comfortable, a diverse workforce who bring their entire selves to the office. I think the benefits of all that has clearly been recognised and is transformed. I think one of your questions, are we there? No, we're absolutely not there yet. And even within organisations, people starting their career still think about those things, may still have a manager who says the wrong thing, whether deliberately or just inadvertently, and creates an environment which people aren't entirely comfortable in. So absolutely a lot still to be done. I'm obviously also really concerned that backward steps are being made, with the administration in the US, and the positioning of diversity, equity and inclusion that comes with that. As a global firm, Allianz has had to navigate that, absolutely committed to its diverse workforce, but faced with some of the realities of the politics in some countries that we have to work our way through. So yeah, fantastic progress. I'm happily married to my partner, happily out at work, and that's something I never thought I'd see really in my lifetime, as I said. But I think it's important that I'm senior enough that I don't care what people think anyway, and will sort of shout at them if they say something they shouldn't be saying. I fully appreciate that's not the position that a lot of junior lawyers will necessarily be in.
Yeah, so that's so great to hear, for you personally, and also for the change that has happened in your lifetime. So I support London Business School Year Out, and I've been on the board for 8 years. And over that period of time, I have seen a massive change in young people coming out and being confident and creating a community. And I remember 8 years ago, when it was longer than that, probably 10 years ago, I went to the first conference at London Business School, and there were 40 young people in the room, and I was speaking and supporting diversity and inclusion. And then I joined the board, and now I think last year we had 500 young students from all around the world, the brightest business minds, gathering at London Business School on an annual basis to showcase talent, to meet people, to look at job share fairs, etc. It's really great to see the change. So the work that you've done in your lifetime has actually made it so much easier for the young people for today. So I think that's something to be applauded and to be proud of.
And I think for senior lawyers, people who are in a position of privilege, I think actually we forget the importance of continuing that message actually, and actually being a bit visible and making sure people understand it is something which they absolutely can bring to the workplace. I think you can assume it's all kind of okay when actually we do need to keep reaffirming the position. I mean, from the young people that you interact with, how much work do you think we still have to do? And I think some law firms can be a bit kind of antiquated, shall we say, with some of their attitudes. I work in financial services and in insurance specifically, also not known in some areas, for being the most forward-thinking sector to work in. So there's more work to be done, I think.
No, I completely agree. And it's important for us to have role models for the wider community so everyone can see. So, my background is also financial services, GC. And so it is a tough industry. But, having people and straight allies, supporting and recognizing that diversity and inclusion is still very much important, and that we all have to make a contribution, because that actually brings huge benefits to any organization. If someone can come to work and feel comfortable in their own skin, they do better work, they're not anxious, they're not worried about what other people are thinking. They just get on and do their job because they're happy doing it. It's actually very basic. It's a very simple formula.
It's such a simple,
treat people with respect.
Such a simple formula. And like I say, I think back to when I was starting out my career. Like you say, you have this additional burden in your head that you're thinking about, which you want to ditch all that baggage and just be yourself, so you can bring your full strength to what you're doing. Yeah, absolutely. And the importance of straight allies, absolutely, totally agree with you, actually. And I think I appreciate that more as I've gone through my career, that the organizations need to be actually delivering on their kind of cultural promise, which isn't just about having role models, having senior LGBT role models, absolutely critical, having senior visible straight allies. It's part of the whole package that we need to put across to show the people coming up through their career that they can be themselves.
Yeah, and that should apply in every organisation. I've always been a huge straight ally since I lived in Hollywood and went to drama school and found myself surrounded by so many LGBTQ people.
Who'd have thought it in a drama school in Hollywood?
For the first time in my life, I started to learn and understand the challenges that my friends were facing. And, as a consequence, I just got pulled in to doing the right thing and championing, the concept of like treating people equally with fairness, with integrity, with honor. So
I think it's giving me huge perspective on whether you're Black or have a disability, or whether you're just a woman, and the challenges that brings navigating some of our workplaces and some of the rather ingrained attitudes that some people bring to those workplaces. I think the perspective that it gives you, and therefore the importance that we have to champion that wider diversity and inclusion is I think a real key lesson I've learned in my kind of lifetime experience.
Thank you, Chris. So in closing, can I ask you, can you please imagine it's 10 years from now and you're now leaving Allianz for the final time? What would make you feel like you've done a really good job? What's your legacy?
What's my legacy? I think I've been in my role for just over 5 years now. I think my legacy will be if I can walk away without any worries, without any concerns, and that means having a fantastic team. And honestly, I could do that today. I've got a fantastic team of lawyers that we've built up through my great senior leadership team and through our recruitment, our focus on the right culture, on the right focus on our clients, and those relationships that we've talked about earlier. If I can walk away and be happy that I've got a fantastic set of lawyers, a fantastic set of company secretarial professionals who know what they're doing, delivering for the business, and can step in and step up when I walk away, that will be success for me. And I'm in that very happy position now of having a fantastic team who know the business really well, and we're a key business partner in delivering what Allianz is looking to do. That's success for me. I'm hoping it won't be 10 years before I get to walk away from my desk and relax a bit, but who knows?
And Chris, a good D&O policy on the way out is always very helpful as General Counsel. Chris, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a fascinating insight into your career, your journey, what you think, how you think. The advice that you've given us is so helpful for other General Counsel, but also importantly, our next generation of in-house counsel. And also hearing your perspectives is really helpful for external counsel to better understand the thought processes of what it's actually like to be General Counsel. So really appreciate you coming in and sharing your journey with us.
Thank you very much for the invitation. It's been a great conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.